Hi, I'm Joe Parcell. I'm here today with Pat Westoff to talk about trade issues in agriculture as part of our Take One for Ag series. So Pat, we've had some things going on out there in trade, and your August baseline, some of these announcements occurred after the August baseline. So in terms of the trade relief, assistance provided farmers, what kind of impact do you see that in terms of adjustments to any baseline?
Sure. We were obviously going to have some more money going to farmers than we would have had otherwise. So these payments are going to be very real. Over $3 billion to soybean farmers alone in the first installment of payments this fall. That will keep farm income from falling as much as it would have otherwise fallen. The question is how much impact it's going to have on next year's production choices.
Yeah, I think that's a good segue here. You're running any scenario analysis in terms of what this might do for next year's decision making for farmers?
I think one of the challenges is trying to get inside farmers' heads. The Secretary of Agriculture has announced very clearly that this will not be repeated in 2019. If farmers take the Secretary at his word, one could argue this should not have a big impact on what people choose to plant in 2019. They should make those choices based on what they expect market returns to do in 2019. However, if people think there's a chance these payments programs could repeat, it may affect what plants they choose or crops they choose to plant next spring.
All right, so we have had some, I think in the farm community, some good news. We've had kind of a renegotiated NAFTA between the United States, Canada, and Mexico. What kind of impacts do you see at the farm level from that decision?
The main thing it's done is provide more certainty. There have been so much uncertainty what was going to happen next in the NAFTA renegotiation. Worries that we might be losing out on some markets that have been very important to us for a very long time, in corn, hogs, cattle, and other products that we care about. So this gives us some certainty. In terms of new market opportunities, it's not that big of a deal for most producers outside perhaps the dairy. In the case of the dairy industry, we'll have some increased ability to sell dairy products into Canada. It's important to remember, though, the Canadian market's relatively small, and that we're only getting a small share of that market.
Pat, I want to thank you for joining us today and visiting with us a little bit about trade policy and what's going on out there and what kinds of things we can expect as a result of some of the trade relief assistance and new changes in some of our trade agreements here in North America. And to our followers, I want to thank you for joining us in this installment of Take One for Ag, and we look forward to you joining us in future installments.